Welcome to Season 2 with the Market Mystics, where we discuss and redefine markets, wealth, and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Join us on the journey while we consider new possibilities with special guests who might just challenge a few perspectives. Get ready to dive in deep with your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Today we have a super special guest. It's been a while since we've had a guest, but I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think we will have some mindsets shifted, some maybe pathways of thoughts challenged. And you know that we kind of love to be ever evolving here. So yeah, before we hop into that, Josh, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I want to welcome and honor Mike for joining us today, where our guest is Mike Popovich. I got the chance to meet him maybe 2 weeks ago now, and it was a thought-provoking night, and there's some things from that I have taken and put into my daily life, and it's just been it's just been something that I want to share with people. So today we're joined by Mike. Welcome, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm well. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So one of the things that we love to ask the guests that come on is like, how do you want to be known? How do you want to be remembered? If there's like a song of your life, a theme, how would you be described like that?
Oh boy, I've never thought about that. So let me just ponder that for a minute. I know what I take pleasure in, and then maybe a song. My mother was a music teacher. I don't know if you know that. So I think in songs all the time. But what I really enjoy and take pleasure in is pointing people back to themselves and go, there's nothing wrong with you. You've always been perfect. You're God's highest design. And they can start living out of the freedom and the effortlessness of letting God do all the work from the inside out. So if that brings a song to your guys' mind, I don't know, but that's really what I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I haven't known you very long. I haven't been around your material very long, but I think one of the things that I've picked up on is you have this theme of it's easier than you're making it.
Yes. Yeah. We were all just chatting before we recorded, and sorry if you can hear that in the background. There's a blender going on. I think it's my daughter. Is that too loud, or can you hear it?
No, I can't hear it.
It's like vibrating all the way through my body. She's making some kind of smoothie or something. So, So here's what we were sharing earlier. Is I think most people would agree, whatever their concept of God is if it's truly God, God doesn't struggle for things, because God is God. Like if God desired, I know you guys are talking about business a little bit. If God desired to operate and run this successful business, how would he do it? Would he struggle? I don't think he would. God would know that if I ever needed a resource, all the resources of the entire planet are available to me. He's infinite. He's effortless. He's easy. There's no struggle. It's unlimited. So if we truly believe that presence of God is in you, which I do, every human being on the planet, it's learning to just allow God, that presence in you, to do all the work, and you're kind of along for the ride and just enjoying it. So one of the things I think we talked about that night, Joshua, was, could you just allow yourself to have life exactly how you would like it to be? That's a great prayer. That's a great thought before you go to bed. I allow myself to have life exactly how it's going to be, because God placed that desire in me. So I know he wants me to live it out and enjoy it. Just like with kids, we wouldn't make it hard for our kids. We want our kids to enjoy life. I personally would feel strange if my wife and I provided all these things for my kids, and then my kids, let's just say even something simple, my daughter going to the refrigerator, getting some fruit and yogurt, making a smoothie here, where she would go, Dad, I'm praying if I can have that fruit and and yogurt in the fridge. We were like, what? Just have it. And I
Mm.
think that's where we mix up God, and God's not hard. He's easy. He's like, I've given you everything. Just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any,
So,
oops, sorry. Do you have any
go
thoughts
ahead.
on people who are kind of stuck in that cycle and don't know
Yeah.
how to get out of kind of the bondage of not knowing freedom? Like it sounds
Yes.
easy, but sometimes it's really hard to get out of that cycle. Do you have suggestions?
Yeah. Um, and I think it is easy. It's just most people are not taught it. So once they're taught, I think then it is quite easy. So I think the main thing I would do is, well, a couple of points. One, if God is infinite, it's eternal. First of all, how would God view this so-called problem that we have? It's not we're like a speck in the timeline of life, of eternity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the first time anybody's experienced this.
Right.
And God doesn't look at it as a problem.
Mm.
Right? It's something we're experiencing. So the first thing is to kind of step back and go, how does infinity look at this? Does it bother infinity? I don't think it does. So that's the first step to me. And then if you knew you had the infinite power or the presence of God in you, could you just let that problem go? Could you? Of course you could.
Right.
And if you knew you were in the infinite presence of God, would you like to be free from that problem? These are just questions you ask yourself. Yeah, I'd like to be free. When would you like to be free? I think I'd like to be free from it right now. And there's not much effort to do other than that. Just recognize that you're not your thoughts and emotions. They come and go. Experiences come and go. The presence of God, infinity, the eternity, the unlimited power of the whole world, if it's truly God, is present within us at all times. It's us that are placing judgments on these things. But as soon as we separate ourselves from that negative, like, oh, I'm not my thought, I'm the presence of God that realizes Mike is having this thought. So I can allow that thought just to dissipate into the perfect perfection of God. It sounds so easy, but it's experiential.
Yeah.
It's really quieting your mind down and just go, oh, that exhale, that feeling of exhale is kind of what it feels like. It's like moms with kids, if a little child they hurt themselves and you see it's not that big a deal. What do moms, the first thing they do? Just take a breath a minute. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. That's what a mom does, right? And that's really what you do with yourself. Like, just take a deep breath a minute. So experientially, it feels like this exhale, like everything's okay. And then visually, you can kind of see it dissipate out of you. Oh, that's just a thought or emotion that's really not attached to me. It can dissolve out of me. And what's left is the perfection of God. It'll be so natural if you just let all those things go. And you go, why did I struggle with any of this for even a millisecond when I could have let it go today?
That's good.
Sounds easy, and it is easy. The mind will start to try complicate it.
That's good.
I believe that.
Well, here's what they'll do. They'll do the yabbits, right? Yabbit.
Before we started recording, you and the other night when I saw you shared a few stories of how that has practically looked in your life. Would you just share kind of maybe first of all how it came to how that became a belief, because that's not a normal Western belief, and then
Yeah.
maybe a couple examples of what that has looked like in your life.
Yeah. As we were sharing, I think everybody intuitively knows there's this source, whether you call it God, whether you call it the kingdom within you, whether you call it the anointing within you. I don't care what language people use. Every little child, I think, intuitively knows there's a presence outside of themselves. They just know. I think we're born into perfection. When you look at, I was always fascinated by humanity and the creativity of, and now even as I understand the body and the creation even more, This is their current number. I think it's wrong. It's going to get bigger and better. But right now they're estimating there's 11 billion miles of DNA in a body. It's so astronomical. We can't think in those numbers conceptually. It's such a big number, right? But so how does one seed, a man and a woman, have a very pleasurable act, intimacy, and out of that one seed creates 11 billion miles of DNA? How does that happen? See, I think if we let our mind go from Western thought, like we're dirty, sinner, rotten, versus no, we are the magnificence of God. And unfortunately, Western theology has taken, here's what's wrong with you. And I think everybody should realize, here's how magnificent you are. And you can even see if you hook somebody, this is why I like a lot of the science of the works of Dispenza and different people like that. You can disagree with him, but I love the science behind it because it affirms what I think we all know. Meaning, if you hook it up in the EEG and the EKG, where they can measure the energy of your brain waves and your heart activity, when you tell somebody, do you know how magnificent you are? The joy, the peace that goes off the charts versus, do you know how rotten you are? Guilt and shame are horrible teachers. They actually cause bodily issues. But the magnificence, the love, the peace of God, every human being on the planet responds to it. It's universal. So that was kind of so I was experiencing these things even as a little kid, as I was sharing. My mother I was the youngest of 7 kids, single mom, school teacher. She demanded good grades because, hey, this is your way out of this situation we're in. So, but I hated to study, so I figured out somehow that when I would well, here it's kind of a simple thing, but people don't think like this. Is if God knows everything, which I believe it does, it's eternal. So there's no beginning, there's no end, there's no questions in God. God knows the answer to everything. If that presence of God is really in me, then would God know the answers to these questions on the test? I think if we just sit back and go, of course God would, but we don't trust it because we're taught, you better study or you're not going to get good grades, aren't we? I think a better message is just trust God within you to share anything you're going to need when you need it. And so that little exercise, even when I got to the Air Force Academy and met my wife, I was going to say current wife, but it's been my only wife, so people might get the wrong idea. In fact, I joke, I go, you should meet my girlfriend. She loves my wife, and they're the same person. They get all confused. So I just like to mess around with people because they're like, aren't you in ministry? I'm like, yeah, it's my first wife. They don't know what to do with all that. So even then, she would go, aren't you going to study? I'm like, no, the test isn't until tomorrow. Just trying to really live in the present, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time in school, in class, even here, I would doodle, meaning I would quiet my mind, not thinking I have to know all this stuff because the Spirit in me, God in me, knows it already. So it's really trying to quiet that thing down and operate like this, which is the word ecclesia, which we call church. The world is trying to get people into a church, and ecclesia, the word actually is out of the nature from the inside out. So true church should be teaching you how to live from the inside out, not gathering people in. That's ekkaleo is nature or name. And it says learning to live from the nature from the inside out is ecclesia. So it's really that idea where I would sit there and doodle. And most teachers would go, pay attention. Well, my spirit's paying perfect attention. In fact, I'm going to do better if I can quiet this thing and allow it to just to. In the science behind it is pretty cool. When you're in a calm state of mind, whether most science calls it alpha theta brainwaves, where you just receive everything freely, you don't question it. Which is why you see when people, like if they're getting hypnotized for addictions or anything, what do? They do something very rhythmic to get their mind off spinning. I'm an addict. I've got this. I got to stop doing this. They just get them very quiet. And then any suggestion they give them when they're in alpha and theta, the heart accepts it and makes it real. So I would just doodle, and then all the answers would come to me. And you can do that in anything. So you can do it in business as well. I think this is what you're asking me to share is we don't have to try figure it out. See, that's engaging the mind again. And the mind's only as good as the programs you've given it, right? The heart is infinite. Get the presence of God and you will do anything you want. Anything. It's ridiculously creative. And so when I met with my wife, I just said, you know what, babe, I think I want to be retired by 35. No concept of how to do it, not trying to figure it out, not thinking I need to go get another degree, it comes into your life if you just go, I accept that idea. That sounds wonderful to me that we were able to do it by 32. So we beat it by 3 years, not doing anything special, guys. I don't have anything different than you. So those are just a couple examples. And then the latest, as we were sharing, just this thought came into me is like, I'd like to build $1 billion brand, and not for anything. It just sounded fun to me. Like, wow, that'd be fun. Like, that'd be fun to go, hey, it's kind of like the people that were around Bill Gates with Microsoft is he had this idea and the other people would kind of be able to live vicariously through it. And I forget how many millionaires he created just from an idea. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I want to do something that's very simple, because I don't want to be a programmer. That's not what I am. I'm not a Microsoft guy or a Google guy or a Facebook guy. I want it to be simple that people could just go, I could be a part of that. And so I was like, I want to build a brand that's like that. And then 3 weeks later, my partner and his son that I met in Dubai like a dozen years ago told me, I'm building these self-storage business, and they're ex-Amish Mennonites. They can build in their sleep, right? This is what they do. They pop out of the womb and they can build a building for some reason. And so he was just telling me the profit margin in that. And it's so simple if you think about the business, right? You just build these garage doors, people pay you their $150 a month, and that's it. So then we just had this idea, like, wow, he was sharing me, we just started working backwards. So, well, this is how much money one facility can make if you sell it. So let's go build 100 of them. And there it is. It came to me. I didn't go look for it. I just had the idea. I allow myself to have that. And then it's the presence of God trying to share what you already, that God created you. So allow your heart to dictate where you want to go. Mm-hmm. Right? Just follow that. That's the ecclesia. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for. But those are some practical examples.
So one question that comes to mind, and I'm going to assume maybe this isn't even a thought in your mind, but if that, for some reason, if you were to decide, hey, this storage thing's not going the way I want it to go, I want to pivot into a different direction. What do you do with that change, that difference sure. in your plan?
Yeah, sure. To me, contentment is the number one thing, right? Mm. So because God's true nature is peace and harmony, which is why the planets are not colliding. We like to say, oh my God, this country's doing this with it, but I'm pretty sure whether you guys are in Wichita or I'm here in Colorado, the moon's going to be right where it's supposed to be tomorrow. The sun's going to be right where it's supposed to be, irregardless of all of us, mm-hmm. right? So I know that God's true nature is harmony. The tulips come up perfectly in the spring, and the snow starts to fall, and then all of a sudden the sun warms up in the spring again, and all the things that we thought were lifeless come to life all by themselves. Somehow the grass seed knows it's supposed to be grass, and the rose bush knows it's supposed to be a rose, and the lavender seed somehow knows how to create these leaves and stalks and beautiful lavender flowers. So the effortlessness of God's in all of that. So to me, if I'm getting a little disturbed and there's I think we need to shift, just go with it. I really would. I wouldn't get too hung up on it, maybe because I think there's certain things that looking back, it's easy when you look backwards, right? Because it all makes sense. And so if we could have that idea, oh, you know what? That was just I believe God could have taken us straight from A to B, but sometimes we get in the way and we have to go on this road that doesn't look straight, but the easiest way is to go straight. He's trying to go where your heart wants to go. Just go straight there. So I wouldn't have any problem going, that was great while we had it. And I think there's this better thing for me at the moment now.
Mm. That's good. I was going to ask about how you navigated to business. I mean, you said you went to the Air Force Academy, which isn't typically synonymous with a business career.
Yeah. What's interesting though is if you go look at the CEOs and different people, how many of them come out of a service academy. West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy, like tons.
Sure.
Right. So I think it's not, you're right, where I think it's really people like, I want to, well, this is what I said, even in my application. I said, I don't want to be average. And so I felt like the traditional, well, I was 6 years old when I saw my oldest brother graduate from West Point, and President Ford gave him his diploma. Wow. And I'm from this tiny little town in Iowa. So I'm 6. Imagine the impression on me that this isn't Dr. So-and-so from XYZ Community College. This is the President of the United States just gave my brother's diploma. Right.
Right.
So right there, I just said, this is the creativity of God. I'm going to have the president give me my diploma. Well, there's only a couple of places you can do that. And sure enough, the first President Bush gave me my diploma. So I think it's more the people that tend to gravitate towards that, just want to do something bigger.
That's good.
And not knowing that once I got there, I was like, wait, what? We have to do survival training? I didn't sign up for this. Like, I just want the president to give me my diploma.
What was your first entry into business? Like after graduating, where did that, like, what was the first thing that was like, okay, I'm stepping into this, let's go?
I think true entrepreneurs are always dabbling with everything, right? We're the ones that had lemonade stands and we're looking for junk in the garage going, Mom, can I sell this? And right. So we just came back from Aspen, and it's this beautiful, really pretty wealthy city. Right. And these little kids were selling like rubber band bracelets, so, and hey guys, you want to make a little kid's day, please go give them some money. Like, did I want a rubber band bracelet? No. But did I want to celebrate their ingenuity and their creativity? It's like, yes. I go, how much? Like, $2, sir. And I said, can I give you a 20? You keep the change. They're like, yes, So I think it's always been that. It's always just been entrepreneurship, I think, is creating something with what you have. Just looking around you and go, what could I do? And then the ideas will come. So I think it's always been there. And I think it's in people. They've just been taught out of it. They would say, oh, I'm not a business guy. Yeah, you are. Everybody is, because they're creative.
I would imagine that you've modeled that life for your family and your kids. Yeah. What has that like? Yeah. What's that been like for them?
I hopefully great. And if you could ask them, I entertain people. I always go, ask my kids, because that's the thing closest to us, right? So ask my kids if it's working, and I think it's working. So really because Barb was from a family of teachers as well, so it was ingrained in us. This is how you get successful. You go to school, you get these degrees, and then I always thought it odd that you get these degrees, and then the minute we graduated from college, the first thing they do is to plan to stop. Well, now how are you going to plan for retirement? I always thought that was such a bizarre. You told me for 20 years of my life, this is the answer. Now, the minute I graduate, now you got to plan so you can get out of it. That was always weird to me.
Yeah.
And I think if you honestly ask yourself, like, if that was the answer, why am I whole planning now to get out of what I just took my whole life to get into? Right. So what we've tried to do with our kids is encourage them in what they were interested in. And they're all different. So my oldest son is interested in music, and my daughter's interested in fashion, and my son's a painter, and he's a world-class painter, and he's never taken a lesson. So we've just tried to encourage them. I can't remember the quote exactly, but it goes something like this: is Picasso, the famous artist, right? His mother was kind of like that, where she said, if you're going to be a general, you're going to be Napoleon. If you're going to do X, you're going to be. So the mother was going, whatever you do, you're going to be the greatest at it, because that's how special you are. And so he said, so I decided to become a painter and become Picasso. I love that. whatever you're going to do, you're going to be great because you're enjoying it and God's the one doing all the work through you. So we've tried to do that with them, and very non-traditional, but they're super happy. They're not bogged down by the system where you got to go work every day, etc. They've never known parents that go outside the house to work. So that's odd to them. Like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't modeled that, so I didn't know that was even a possibility. So, like, to me, I love having a cup of coffee, talking to you guys at 11, and I'm still in my shorts.
Oh, I
Not
love
on shorts, just short shorts, right?
that.
Right. So I don't know. I love which is kind of cool. Can I just share this? I think this will help. So when I was an engineer, because I graduated from the academy and I was an engineer, and my wife was also an engineer. I had the dream to do what I'm doing. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but to me, the driver was always freedom. Like, what does it feel like to be free? It's kind of like little kids, the first day of the day summer vacation starts, when they run out of school. What does that look like to them? I mean, you can picture it, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yes, because that's our natural state, is to be free, which is why it's so joyous to a little kid. And we shove them in there for 9 months of the year and go learn. And they're like, oh my God, at least like me, I'm like, I'd rather slip my wrist, right? So I didn't know how it was going to work, but so my wife found this picture of a single cup of coffee, and some of you guys can relate to the power of our thoughts and imagination, where I think we're really just taking the presence of God with us and bending and shaping that. But she found a single cup of coffee in a magazine, and it was a cup of coffee with a saucer with a spoon hanging on it, and you could see the steam rising out of the coffee. And the caption was, "Imagine a stress-free day." So this is what I did religiously. I would get to work, and I don't know if it snows there, but it snows here. You know, sometimes you're sliding on roads, and people are yelling at you and telling you're number one on the interstate. You know, just the whole thing. Stressful event, right? And you get to the office, and you're like, ah. So I would sit there in my chair. I'd look at that thing in my cube, and the best I could, I would imagine sitting on my couch, and I would try smell the coffee in my nose. I would try feel like, you can picture, it's like if you have a warm cup of coffee on a cold day, you can feel it in your hands and the steam rising up into your face. It just feels so good. And you can kind of smell and taste the coffee. And I would imagine myself doing that, and then look over at my wife and go, "Hey, babe, what do you want to do today?" And I would imagine it's 9 a.m. because that to me was freedom. It meant I wasn't going to rushing off. I could truly enjoy life in the moment. And that's been 23 years for me now. But
Wow.
I did it in traditional. I went down the traditional route, got a great degree, an engineer. And for me, I think intuitively all know there's something better. There's something more free. There's something more effortless. There's something where we can simply enjoy life just for the sake of enjoying life versus just trying to earn a living. Why don't you just allow life to emanate out of you instead of earn it? God doesn't make you earn anything. You are.
Mm. That's really good. So for the person stuck in the grind, what do
They
you
can do the
say?
same thing.
Yeah.
So, your definition of what a perfect day is looks different, right? Some people are like, that's so boring. I want to do what? I go, that was just what inspired me. So if you go, you know what, if I was free, this is what I do. That works just as well. Enjoy yourself experiencing that as if it's real, until you kind of get that, oh, that would be amazing. That feeling, right? And then just to me, it's this, hey, the presence of God in me has all the creative power of the entire world in it. Just go, I allow myself to enjoy that, God. Thank you for bringing it to me. And just trust that. That's how you get out of it. It's not hard. It's really not hard. It's the most simple thing you could do, actually.
I love that. What
Yeah.
about, what would you say about that in regard to someone who really has maybe that spark of creativity, that piece of purpose that they just know they have to accomplish.
Yeah.
That may not, it may still feel like work, but they still know this is what part of what they're made for. You know what I mean? Like how would you marry those two things?
This may be where I challenge some thought. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Does God have a purpose? See, I'll push back on all this idea you have to have a purpose.
Sure.
Because to me, that means I'll feel good about myself if I do X.
Right.
So you're putting off happiness, joy, peace until something happens. I think you get to the place where it's purposeless almost. Where imagine the joy of little kids. They don't have a purpose. What do they all they can do is think about recess. They're enjoying life, right?
Right.
So I think it's a little backwards. So this is what I would tell them. I would go, if you accomplished that thing that you think would give you a purpose, how would you feel? And it'll always come back to, I would feel great about myself. I would feel content. I would feel so much pleasure. I'd feel so much joy. I'd feel so loved. I'm going to use some, God used me.
Sure.
Which is why they're never satisfied and they're never peaceful. I would go, you're doing it backwards. Why don't you enjoy the peace of just being right now? And then what you're supposed to do will happen effortlessly out of you. I think purpose driven causes a lot of stress and anxiety and takes away your natural peace, which is available right now.
So the opposite.
Could you get to a place where there is no purpose of just, so here's what's fascinating to me is like, I know some of it, we come from a lot of the same theology is the nature of God that's forever and ever is I am. There's no purpose in that. It's the existence.
That's
I am.
true.
I'm being.
It's not I will be, right?
It's not, because you're always going to put your happiness. Yeah, because a lot of times, like you could take something very simple, materialistic. It's like, think about people like, oh, maybe a young kid's like, when I get my first Mustang, I'm going to be so happy. They've got this vision of getting a red Mustang or something, right? Or anything, a moped. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Or your first iPhone, doesn't matter. All of a sudden you get that and it satisfies that pleasure for a brief moment. But after about a week, 2 weeks, you're like, I'm still got that nagging that I'm not complete yet. So then you go buy another thing, or you do this, or you try to find it here. And true happiness will come from just being who you naturally are, is just being present right now. Isn't it wonderful that everything works in my life? Then the things that really cause joy effortlessly just start showing up in your life.
I like that. I really like that. I think that's what shifts it. Like if we look at it from that perspective of I am, not I was or I will be, it really brings you back to who you, like what you are, who you are, all the things right this moment.
Yeah, God is the presence of the existence of all things. He doesn't have a purpose. He is. Right? So that's why I'll push back on a lot of that, because most of us were taught you have to have the purpose-driven life, for instance, right?
We know that book.
Yeah, I know most of the people that are on the staff even still are miserable because I know them. So I go, it's not working in their life, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I appreciate the pushback because honestly, I mean, you said it yourself, like we come from some of the similar theology background, and there's like this constant unwinding, right? Like just as soon as I think I'm outside of the box, I realize I've just put another box there, and then I have to get out of that. And
God has no boxes.
Right.
The minute we put a box, we start limiting, right?
Exactly. And it is like, it's this, I have to believe it's this learned behavior. And so it's like constantly doing it. It might be a bigger or looser box, but I still do it. And I
Yeah, and
think
I'm
I'm
still
not.
unraveling my boxes, right?
Right. So I appreciate
Yeah.
when you can push back and you say, oh, but here's this box again. Let's just think about that for a second.
Well, it's because I've pushed down a lot of my own boxes where I realized like that was just a dumb box that I constructed in my mind, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's that's why I think creation is such an interesting thing for me. Like I talk about this a lot. I think we talked about this in Wichita, Joshua, is like if you take a tulip bulb, for instance. I grew up in Iowa in this Dutch community where there are tulips everywhere. And you place it into the ground, does the tulip struggle to create these green leaves and stalks and all of this beautiful tulip? Everything's brought to the tulip. It doesn't have a purpose. The purpose is in it inherently.
Mm.
And I think that's where, what's our purpose? Our true purpose is happiness and love. And that's what it is. And so in the moments we feel the best is when we feel like everything's okay, where I'm not striving for anything, but I'm just enjoying life in the present. That's when we have the most joy, the most peace. As soon as you start putting these other ideas, I must go do, we know intuitively that, nah, just why don't you just enjoy now?
I love that concept of stripping away the need to, because it allows you to just enjoy whatever happens to be in front of you.
Yes, right now.
Yeah, it takes the polarization away from good or bad, or like
Ooh, it's a big one.
it's just right there. It's you
Yeah,
can
I am.
if you could just be in that moment. I think that's
Yeah.
a really beautiful place to sit.
Yeah, and I do my best. We all miss it, and I have to remind myself when I feel any kind of anxiousness that, oh, you're getting away from just being present right now, enjoying life as it is right now. No judgment.
Hmm.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, if you were going to leave the listeners with any last thoughts, what would that be?
Oh boy. Do you know how special you are? There's nothing wrong with you. The presence of God makes you completely unlimited. That's natural to you. So anytime you feel like there's limits, just know that's not true about you. You can let those thoughts dissolve and you'll come right back to everything's okay. And life just starts to become pretty joyful. It starts to become pretty easy. And you're going to wish you did it years before. So it's just enjoy it right now. Any thought you have that I'm not good enough, I'm not loved enough, I made these mistakes in the past, I don't have the right degree, look how many times I've failed. Those are just thoughts. Let them go away. Just go, it's okay. That's just a thought. It's not the real me. The real me is the presence of God, which has always been perfect. And it will be 10 years from now. Cool. Now I'm just going to allow myself to enjoy life that. And the big question when you go to bed, I think, is what we've shared a couple of times is, could I allow myself to have life exactly how I would like it? The offer's there from God. And it's really, could you allow yourself to just go, I accept that. This is who I am right now, and allow it to unfold in your life.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful place to invite people into.
Yeah, it's cool.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to thank you and honor you for joining us today. It's been a privilege, and I hope our listeners can have some good takeaways that they can put into their life to just help simplify things. Like, I think that's the big takeaway for me today is like, I'm overcomplicating it.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you bet,
And
guys.
we value you. We honor you. I really appreciate everything you brought today, even the pushback. Truly.
If you know me at all, I have no problem with that. Sometimes my wife's like, oh no, right? Like, no, this will help, right? So anyway.
It's
all right.
good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, blessings, guys.
Yep.
Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.